What's going on, YouTube world and YouTube tribe? You can see I got my NWO Wolfpack. I got some new wrestling shirts, but you'll see another new one in my wrestling review for Friday Night SmackDown. But we're here talking about 007, Daniel Craig's last outing as the title character in No Time to Die. I actually finally got to see this movie, so I'm giving you my thoughts on this movie. Where to begin? Well, let me give you my background first before we dive into this, so you know where I'm coming from. Let me give you my background when it comes to James Bond films. Now, I was born in 1990. So, by me being 31, the first James Bond film, the first time being exposed really good as a kid to a James Bond film would be 1995 with GoldenEye. And that would be the first film with Pierce Brosnan as James Bond. Now, leading up to that, in that year, 95, leading up to the release of GoldenEye, I might have seen like Dr. No or Thunderball, something like that. I might have seen one or two of the old Sean Connery ones, but that was like my actual exposure into the world of James Bond. So from there, I love all the movies Pierce Brosnan did. I love GoldenEye. I love Tomorrow Never Dies, The World's Not Enough, and Die Another Day. I absolutely love all his movies. And with that, I was like, okay, let me go back and look at the older ones too, the ones that came before him. So, that's why I got exposed to the fact that Sean Connery was most famous for, and he was most famous for being the first James Bond, I think. He's like the most famous one, and he's the first James Bond because the very first canon James Bond movie was Dr. No, and that starred Sean Connery. So I went back. I watched not only all the Sean Connery, but I seen the Roger Moores and Timothy Dalton's and the one that had one guy. So I got myself acquainted with the older movies. So now it wasn't just like, okay, I'm a fan only because I seen the Pierce Brosnan, but I'm also a fan now because I actually got to see the older James Bond movies. So with that being said, with all that, now you know that I am a true fan of James Bond. Well, not I want to say a true fan because I never read like some of the books. I never read the books, but I am a true fan of the film movies. So when Daniel Craig took over in 2006, so I was 16 when Daniel Craig's first James Bond movie came out, which was Casino Royale. I was not a huge fan of that. I was not a huge fan of Casino Royale. Honestly, if I started YouTube, my 16-year-old self had started a YouTube channel back then, I would have told you that for me, Casino Royale would have got a 2 out of 10 big ups, right? Meaning it was god awful. Like, I watched Casino Royale one time in my whole life since 2016. Since 2006 up until now. Casino Royale, I only seen it from beginning to end once, and that was in 2006. After that, I seen it 2 more times, but not in full. Like, I might have seen it for a good 10 to maybe 15 minutes. And that 10-minute one was in 2008 when his next movie, Quantum of Solace, came out. I seen like 10 minutes of it, and I was like, oh God, I don't want to watch this no more. And then just a couple of days ago, it was either a couple of days ago, a couple of weeks ago, my mother was watching Casino Royale. So this is in 2021 now. This is my 3rd time ever looking at Casino Royale again, and I literally looked at it, was like, oh, I hate this movie. And so All that is to say this. Since I never done a review for any of the day, this is my first and I guess last one for his take on the character. I'm saying this to say that he's done what, 5 movies? Yeah, 5 movies. And out of the 5 movies he did, only like 2 of them. So we talking about from 2006 to 2006 to now. Only 2 movies stood out to me as movies that actually seemed good to me, and that was Spectre and this movie, No Time to Die. I won't say I hate Casino Royale, but I don't like it. I did Quantum of Solace and Skyfall was okay, but Skyfall, out of any of them, Skyfall is probably, if I'm bored on the day I don't got nothing to do and Skyfall is on TV, I'll watch Skyfall. I don't need to. I watched Quantum of Solace once. I might have watched Skyfall twice, and I watched Quantum of Solace once. Don't need to see that again. I would never watch Casino Royale, and I might, when I'm bored, watch Skyfall. But all right. So now you get where I'm coming from. So he made 5 movies, only 2 of them is the ones I like. So the synopsis for No Time to Die reads: James Bond is enjoying a tranquil life in Jamaica after leaving after service. However, his peace is short-lived as his old CIA friend Felix shows up and asks for help. The mission to rescue a kidnapped scientist turns out to be a far more treacherous than expected, leading Bond on a trail of a mysterious villain. I couldn't speak right there. A mysterious villain who's armed with a dangerous new technology. So, it's just maybe teensy weensy spoiler. Jamaica. The Jamaica part is accurate, but it's not. He's already like retired, and he's doing something else. But yeah, the film shows you a retired James Bond, Daniel Craig, and Madeline, I think his love interest. I actually just messed up my little, so I can see who. Yeah, Madeline. So Madeline is his love interest, right? And they both having this life. They love each other, but the movie actually shows you a backstory. Now, I'm not going to tell you where this part happened, but it shows you a backstory of a little girl and how she pretty much loses her mother. And this is to help get you acquainted with the main villain of the movie, Safin. I can't pronounce his full name. His first name is hard to pronounce, but they do like, if you Google like the movie, they go by Safin instead of giving you his full name. His full name starts with an L, but they give you Safin as just his Bond villain name. It's just Safin. So this scene is like the origins of Safin and this particular girl who basically had to witness Safin do something terrible, because she finds out that something terrible happened to Safin due to this girl's father, and then you realize, okay, that, he's obviously out for revenge, so that's why he's here. But then you see how Safin and this little girl goes to war. Cause her back is against the wall. She knows that she's in trouble, so she fights with Safin and almost nearly gets the upper hand. But some unfortunate accident would happen where Safin had her literally by the barrel of the gun, and he chose not to kill the little girl but to save her. And if you've seen the movie or haven't seen the movie, when you see it, you know what I mean. And now we are transported to the present. We then get transported to the present where we see James and Madeline. We see them on a perfect tranquil life. He said, she it was like even the scene where they was driving in the car, they all hugged up together in the car as James Bond was driving, and she's like, go faster, and he's like, we don't need to go faster, we got all the time in the world. And there was a callback to Casino Royale. Vesper, I think, Vesper, the girl he was in love with in Casino Royale. They was where they was staying at on vacation. It was in this country where they had this tradition where you write the name of somebody on a piece of paper, you burn to signify that you moving on. And at this point is I don't know, I can't remember if he told her Madeline about Vesper and Spectre, but she knows about him, and she knows about her. I said him. She knows about her in this movie, and she basically tells him that she will reveal all her secrets to him if he could let go of Vesper, because she realized how much he loved Vesper, and that if he could let her go, that's the only way they could become closer and grow to something more than just that. She looking in the lines of, if you could finally let Vesper go, we could probably be a family. We could get married, have a family and stuff, but you gotta let go of the past. So in spirit of letting go, that's what he does. He tries to go let go of the past, but certain things happen, and thus cue in mysterious something happened, and now he has to go on the hunt. He has to leave. Now he's in Jamaica, and that's when he's approached by Felix, and the whole thing becomes a mystery of who set these events into motion. We do get the villain from Spectre. He's back in this movie as he plays a major role. He's like Blofeld is like the secondary antagonist of this movie. And the deeper you get into the movie, you find out that he's also an antagonist to someone else. But yeah, he's like, Safin and Blofeld are both the antagonists of this movie. As Blofeld has even locked up, still was trying to get to James Bond. We meet Naomi. I won't say I was like, everybody was making a big deal about the Naomi character being the new 007. No, you find out that you find out that after he was retired, even thought to be dead, they gave his number 007 to Naomi. She became the new 007. She wasn't the new James Bond, per se, but she was the new person to have that code name 007. And you find out that them two don't, Naomi and James do not get along with each other. Like, there's even a funny scene where Naomi is like, she's like, oh, you thought, minor line spoiler, oh, you thought they was gonna retire it, didn't you? I wonder how that feels. And he was like, it's just a number. Like, that's how he plays it off. It's just a number. And then throughout, they have this budding rivalry because she's trying to one up him and prove that she deserves to be 007. But yeah, so James Bond going on basically a mission. He eventually accepts the mission from Felix, and they both go on. The mission, the CIA's mission and MI6 mission intertwined, so they both got to the same person, and it leads James to a list of betrayal, traitors traitors in the form of double agents. You just everybody who has a secret, it just all gets revealed in this movie. Nobody's secret stays a secret in this movie. Except, James Bond is the only person who really don't have a secret. Like, M has a secret. Madeline, she has a secret. Like, Madeline has a secret. Like, Blofeld, Safin, all of them have secrets, and all like gets blown out of proportion. This blown into the wild. Like, everybody's secret gets known. This film is like heavily family and friends oriented, so like it does have like a theme about family and stuff like that, and who and how you make your family and your loved ones. Who how do you define someone as your brother or your sister? All that type, about being brother, people being brothers without having to be blood and all that type of stuff. But overall, this movie it was both intriguing and underwhelming, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because in my final verdict of this movie, it was intriguing. The things I liked about it, I did like some of the action scenes. I did like. I felt like the thing, and one of the things I didn't like, as we talk about action, is that I felt like it was too much action and not enough spy action. Like, it was just action, but I needed that James Bond spy action. Like, in the older James Bond movies, the ones before Daniel Craig, when I mean by spy action, I mean you got the action, and he does something with a cool gadget to help him in the action sequence. So you just like, oh, that was tight. No, we got that a little bit in this movie, but for me, it's a negative, the fact that we didn't get a balance of it, so I can say, okay, this now he looks like the James Bond of old, but we did get some mixture. We got a little bit too much action and some spy action, but but it was cool. When we did get like the scenes where he's fighting and he has to use a gadget to defeat a person. Yeah, it was one scene in particular which was cool. I was like, oh, I forgot about that. But then you saw it coming because I was like, oh yeah, because you know what this device is used for, and you know what this person has on them, and then it's like, oh, that was cool how they used that. But yeah, we do get a little bit of gadgets. We do get the car with the gadgets in it. We get I think we see multiple versions of James Bond's classic cars. We get to see. I think they even pulled out the Timothy Dalton version, or the Aston Martin, or his car, the car he uses in most of his films. But in all, like, the things I like was that I like for the most part the story that it told. If not, sometimes I like the story for the most part, but the negative on that side is that the story kind of fell flat because it had two two antagonists, and I say that because Blofeld's appearance in the movie is not like a one appearance, like you only see him in one scene. That's it. You see him in a couple of scenes, and his presence is felt in the movie to where you have to include him as an antagonist because there's literally like a half of a movie where Blofeld's the one trying to get him, and Safin only comes in as a villain to Bond after something happened that brings him and Bond into conflict. And that's what I kind of like. Wait a minute. So the movie, like in the promotions and stuff, you promoted both of them, but you promoted Safin as like the main guy. But when you watch the movie, you find out that he's not really the main guy. Like you thought he was, like the trailers and the promotional stuff was. Like, you find out that when he was brought with a dude who Rami Malek, when he was brought onto the movie, you found out he was playing the main villain. But yet when you see the movie, it's like you supposed to be the main villain, but you was hardly there. Like, I heard other people's reviews, and that they was correct on that point, that it felt a little shallow because if he's the main villain, he's hardly there until a certain point, and until this conflict that brings him and Bond together as villains. But by that point, you're already half into the runtime, so you're like, how you now we gotta try to rush, and this is another negative right here, is the rush of having to build the tension between Malik and Malik, I use his real last name, Safin and Bond, and which felt rushed because they made both Blofeld and Safin like the villain, and they took so much time for Blofeld that when Safin becomes the villain to Bond, it's like now it's rushed and now it's flat because you literally see it rush, and it's like we don't get that emotional attachment because we've been with Blofeld, for one portion. So yeah, Safin as a villain felt a little flat at points, but he did have some. He had the most emotional impact on Bond. Blofeld did had equal amount of emotional impact, but it wasn't. It was more of Safin because Safin did things that when you see the movie, you'll see why he will become so heated towards Safin. But yeah, like the positives that I like the visuals, I like the acting, and I like the stunts and the coordination and some of the action scenes. So I like some of the characters acting in it. But the negatives I had about the movie was that I didn't enjoy like the pacing as much because, like I said, some things felt rushed. Naomi's character was just like her character. Like why I did enjoy her smart, wisecracking, and pretty much dick's attitude towards Bond at certain points, which is a positive. I forgot to say about Naomi. If she was relegated to basically 006 at one point without being called 006, she was relegated to the 006 sidekick role to Bond, and I wish they gave her more to do to make her stand out. And as the reason, let us know what was the reason what qualified her to be 007. But you really didn't get that. You got that she was a badass, but you didn't get why they chose her as 007. So that was a negative, not knowing, not fully fleshing her out. The other negative was besides this pacing of the story and not fleshing Naomi out. I didn't enjoy it. Like I forgot. I didn't enjoy the fact that Safin almost felt like the afterthought. At one point, you forgot he was. At one point, you get so invested in one aspect of it, you forget that Safin was there, and then you're like, oh yeah, I forgot. There's a whole nother part where we gotta have Bond versus Safin, and it's like, oh, okay. I forgot all about that. Why the hell they haven't been building that up? And when you get to the point, the movie realizes there too, so they got now we got to sprint and to make Safin this equally bad guy like Blofeld. And I forgot another positive that I did enjoy Blofeld's. I did enjoy for the better parts. I did enjoy both Blofeld and Safin as a villain, but when it comes to the negative, I ain't like how Safin was portrayed in this movie. And it's not Rami's fault. Maybe it's because how they wrote it and what they gave him to do. But it seemed like he could have been a good villain had they gave him. The other thing too, he wasn't menacing. Like Blofeld, when I compare Blofeld and Safin was not as intimidating and menacing as Blofeld. It was like you got the appearance of the idea that Safin was more akin to just a fragile bully person turned terrorist, and he basically trying to have power and call himself a god, but he didn't really come across that. You got somewhat a factor of intimidation and stuff, and that's only when loved ones was threatened, but. Other than that, the loved one was threatened. And the weapon he uses, which is a secret the secret by another person in the film. The weapon he uses was a secret that was developed as a secret weapon that was developed, and that brings Bond a conflict for a person that he works with that knows about this secret, that was in charge of the secret weapon project, and that's the secret for one character. But yeah, there was callbacks to M and to Casino Royale, because they did have a callback to Casino Royale where and I think it was like what at the end of Casino Royale where James Bond shot the person at the end. It did the gun barrel thing, and he did it again. And this one said it did in the movie, but you could tell in the hallway when you seen it in the trailer in the hallway when he shot, it looked like a gun barrel. But overall, if I had to give this, and another negative was another negative before I get to the review. The last negative was the lack of James Bond like gadgets that we're used to. Like we used to see in James Bond have a whole bunch of gadgets and stuff, like at least 3 or 4 of them in the movie. Beyond just his car, usually he had multiple things on him that's really a weapon, and he only had like one thing on him. So the one beyond the car, he only had one thing on him that was a secret gadget like weapon. So it was like, and then and another negative I just remember was the lack of the fact that he wasn't. I know they were trying to tell the story of him being settled down with this one girl, but you gotta remember that Bond is also like a ladies man, and we really didn't get a lot of a ladies man in this movie. But overall, if I were to give this film No Time to Die anything, I would give No Time to Die 7 big ups, because by comparison, if I would have did a review for Spectre would have got an 8. So this was like, so it's just one. It wasn't, to me, No Time to Die wasn't as good as Spectre, but it was still up there with Spectre. Like I could literally buy and both No Time to Die and Spectre and be okay with that. And that's like another. I forgot. I just realized another 2 negatives was, one, it was the fact that they chose. For me, it felt like it took until Spectre and No Time to Die for me to actually get behind Daniel Craig as James Bond. But by that time, his tenure as James Bond is over with. So the fact that he made 5 movies, but only 2 of them I liked, I felt like they could have did better with the first 3 movies, and but that was, and then there was another one. Another negative I just remember was the fact that how they chose. I forgot to mention this before I go. The other negative was how they chose. I kept trying to remember all my negatives, and then I finally got to it. How they chose to end Daniel Craig's tenure. Like, there's 2 things in this movie that they do. I forgot that I told you I was going to explain why this movie is both intriguing and underwhelming. It was intriguing because they do 2 things that never been done before in a James Bond film. One is something that people always talked about what would happen, because he does this so many times in all these James Bond movies. It was bound to happen at least one time. Like, come on, this is the real world. It's at least one time he's going to do it. This is going to happen to James Bond, and it does. They do it in this movie. So that's the first thing they do is something they never done. They do 2 things. And like I said, they do something. If something happens to James Bond that never happened before in other James Bond films. So this is the first film to do this. And the thing they do for the first time ever is how they end a James Bond tenure. Now, and the way how they end in the movie, and the way how they end Daniel Craig's, this is what made the film a little underwhelming. The reason why it got a 7 too was because I felt like the way how they ended his tenure was like very unnecessary. Like, I felt like that, like he was already leaving the character role. You could have just did this differently, but the way you chose to end it was kind of like, meh. I was like, it really didn't work for me. Because it was like, wow, that was a first. That was a first. Okay, that never happened before in James Bond movies, but all right, whatever. I don't know how to feel about it, but at this point, it didn't have no emotional weight to it for me because I haven't been invested into the Daniel Craig movies. So it was like, when this happened, it was like, oh, okay. And I felt like in my opinion, had the first 3 movies been better, I would have been more emotionally invested into his send-off. But the fact that I wasn't, and the fact that the way they chose to send him off was like, you did that? Okay. So yeah, two things. The first thing they do, like I said, the first thing is it makes it what makes the movie intriguing. Is something they do that never been done before in a James Bond movie. That's what makes it intriguing, along with the other positives. And what makes it underwhelming is the negatives and the fact that the way how they chose to send him off is it makes everything underwhelming. Like the way how they chose to send him off negated some of the emotional ties and emotional things you went through in this film with him. When you get to that how they send him off, you like, well, now that makes the other stuff you just did like kind of, some of it is just kind of like, so why did you just do that if you was gonna do this? Like some of this is mute, like. But yeah, 7 out of 10 big ups for this movie. Yeah, unfortunately, only like, I know a lot of people say that they think Daniel Craig as James Bond was like, he's like the second best after Sean Connery. For me, Daniel Craig is number 5. I literally got Sean Connery, Pierce Brosnan, Roger Moore, Timothy Dalton, and Daniel Craig. And the only reason why Daniel Craig is number 5 is because I didn't enjoy the first 3 movies. Had I enjoyed the first 3 movies, he could have been number 2 at best, number 2 or number 3. But I didn't enjoy the first 3 movies, and the movies I only would actually buy would be Spectre and No Time to Die. So, you know, somewhat okay send off to Daniel Craig, but at the same time very underwhelming. And but hey, let me know in the comments below what you thought of No Time to Die. If you thought the ending, if you seen it, if you thought the ending, don't spoil it in the comments. But if you seen the ending, let me know if you felt like that was an underwhelming ending, or you felt like that was a good way to send Daniel Craig off. Let me know, or let me in general, let me know what you thought in the movie as a whole. But if you enjoyed this movie, and I forgot, let me know too if you who is your favorite James Bond. But if you enjoyed this movie, then hit that button right, and this review, then hit that button right there in the upper right corner for all of my reviews. And if you enjoyed this video so much you want to support the channel, all you gotta do is hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and turn on all post notifications so you get notified when I drop videos. And as always, hit before I get to that part, remember, all that is for free. It don't cost anything, so hit all those buttons for me, please. And as always, hit any one of these videos for more of my amazing content. But don't go anywhere, because I got the wrestling review for Friday Night SmackDown coming up next.